I really wanted to talk about this episode before we dive into it and give you guys some context of it. So a year and a half ago, I interviewed Jen for the first time. At that time, she was just a lady who was going through a hard point in her life while being newly married. And it was a conversation deep on running a business and going through cancer. So then I decided to do a part two, a follow-up, because I always wanted to talk to her husband and see his thought process and his vantage point of the whole situation. So we had that part two, which aired this week with Matt and Jen. During the board conversations, I always refer to my interaction, if I should say, with cancer was through my mom, who was diagnosed when I was only 18 years old. I always wanted her and Jen to have a conversation, and it worked out so perfectly. And in God's time, that my mom was here the week when we aired this, and it was the perfect time to do part three with two cancer survivors talking about their experiences with cancer. And it's my first episode that I am not on camera at all. And it's just a conversation between two women about their situations and their interactions with cancer, their experience with cancer. Okay, so for the video version of this episode, it does stop abruptly. Like my mom is in mid-sentence and then she just stops. But the audio version, because after we cut the cameras, the conversations kept going. And I'm gonna leave that. I would like to leave that on free audio so that you guys can hear that audio, because I think it was really good information that was shared in the audio version. So please listen to the audio version, especially last 10 to 15 minutes. I would know after I edit it.
Welcome to the Young and Gifted podcast. I am Jen. I'm not usually here, but I am today. And I'm actually here with Denise. And we're calling this the third installment of a podcast with myself. And today we're going to be talking about breast cancer in young people, life after, life through it. We've both experienced it.
Yep.
So we're going to do a quick little catch everybody up, and then we're just going to start a conversation.
Yes.
So as I said, I am Jen. I was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 35. My husband felt a tumor, and they got me in extraordinarily quick. They did all the tests, and it turned out I had stage 3 estrogen positive cancer at the time. Then I did 4 months of chemo. I did a full bilateral mastectomy. In that, we figured out that my cancer had spread a little bit or changed. And so I was now I was HER2 positive. And, oh my gosh.
Wow.
Words. But it changed, so I added 18 rounds of immunotherapy over the next year. I had 15 rounds of radiation.
Wow.
And I'm here on the other side. So, and I have no children. And what else are we going to talk about?
Okay.
That's my story to start.
Okay, so I am Denise. I'm very happy to be here with you. I was excited to sit and have a little chat with you because not often as business women we get time to do what we're doing today. And sometimes it's a difficult reflection, but sometimes we have to look back and learn from those experiences. So I am Denise. I am Vaughn's mom. I am 62 years. In fact, I will be 62 years old on the 14th of April.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Which is just, thank you in
Couple
advance.
weeks,
Yes,
yes,
thank you. And I was diagnosed at age 45. I discovered it myself because as a nurse, I was accustomed to examining my breast for myself.
Right.
Yeah. So I felt this little lump. It was like, it felt like a little lime seed.
Okay.
Very, very, very,
Very
small.
Okay.
So much so that I told myself when I first felt it, no, I'm not feeling anything. I don't think so,
Yeah.
And I went on to continue to feel it for a while after. for about
Okay.
a week or so.
Okay.
And then I realized, wow, this is really there. And it was bothering me because of where it was as well.
Right.
It was just like under the armpits at the side of the
Oh,
breast.
it was actually in the
At the
side.
side. Yeah.
Okay.
So to make my story short, I went in to do a mammogram, and after the doctor examined me, being in the profession, I knew the doctors.
Yeah.
So after he examined me and did the mammogram, he said, "Hey, you have a clean slate, man. Nothing is wrong. And there's nothing there."
Okay.
And I remember sitting up on the bunk, and I had my my t-shirt in my hand to go because the sheet was around me.
Mhm.
And I said, "But doc, I am certain that I felt something there.
Mhm.
And I'm just not comfortable with what I felt."
Yeah.
He said, "But I didn't see anything." And I again said, "But I felt it there." And he asked me, show me exactly where you feel it."
Okay.
And I pointed to the exact spot, and I said, you have to sort of go in a lot. And then I said, "There it is." And he put his hand and he said, "Hey, there is something there." All right. And he said, "Okay, lie down. I'm going to get the scope and I'm
Right.
going to manually search for
Yeah.
it." And that is how I just heard him say, "There you are." So when he said that, there were two mixtures. First thing I want to say is that when we women are in those situations, you long for a positive answer.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that came to my mind when he said, "You are clear, there's nothing there," I was so happy.
Yep.
But then a part of my brain said, "Hold on, didn't you feel something?"
It's still not right. Yeah.
You understand? Now,
Yeah.
I could have done what a lot of women do. We get up, we say, "Okay, thanks, we are so happy, there's nothing there," and we go our way. And then next few weeks or next few months, you realize, hey, whatever is there, it's bigger.
It's bigger.
So it's now progressed, and then you are. So there's a level of acceptance that something is wrong.
Yeah.
It could be small, something is wrong. So when we went so when he saw it, he said, "Listen, I'm worried about this because it looks just like breast tissue.
Right.
And given where it is,
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable." He said, "It's so small."
Yeah.
So he said, I think you should go see a surgeon." So I went to see a surgeon. This is a guy who used to play cricket with me.
Of course.
And he said, "Girl, what you doing here?"
Yeah.
And I told him, and he examined it, and he said, "I don't think there's anything there. I mean, I'm feeling something, but it could be just fibrous tissue. I mean,
Yeah, a little
given your
cyst
age, a little
or-
cyst or something,
Exactly.
which is
Yep.
hormonal. He said, "Well, let's wait until after your cycle, and let's see, because it's usually clearer after the cycle.
Yeah, if it'll go
Hormones and
away. Yeah,
things.
of course.
Yeah." So I said to him, "No, I'm not gonna wait. I want it out."
Yeah.
And he said, "You sure? Okay, it will take a while." I said, "Listen, whatever it is, I want it out." And I look back now and I thank God that I was so persistent and insistent on care.
Yeah. That you had to advocate
I had
for
to,
yourself.
yes, because as I said, the first thing you feel is such joy that, hey, surgeon say nothing wrong. It looked because that is what you want to hear.
Yeah.
You know?
And if you just hold on to that and ignore all of the other warning signs,
That's right.
very dangerous.
That's right. And sometimes there aren't much more when it's very early. There aren't much more inside except the lump.
Yeah.
Sometimes you might have a little dimpling, but generally, with breast cancer, there isn't a whole lot of warning signs when it's early. The warning signs come more
when it's
after,
progressing. Yeah.
right? So so then we did surgery, and within a 2 to 3 weeks time, he called me in the office. So anytime he told me to come in, I suspected, right? And
I got that call that I'll wait in the office. You come in today.
Yeah. So how did you feel going in?
I knew I had cancer. That moment, I actually left my
I too.
husband. He went to his friend's place.
Yes.
Because I was like, I want to do this alone. I
Yes.
want my moments to grieve. I want to
Yes.
process it.
Yes.
And so I went to my doctor's office. And so we were leaving on a vacation the next morning.
Right.
And everyone knew that. So
Yes.
we had talked and like, depending on how these results come, are we allowed to fly? All of this. So she
Mm-hmm.
says, hey, I just want to do one more exam before you get on a plane and fly.
Thank God.
And I was like,
Mhm.
she was getting me into the office to tell me I had cancer.
Yes.
She didn't want to do it over the phone,
yes.
right? Of course.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I was like, that was it. My doctor will wait at the office for me. I was like, I have cancer.
Yes.
And I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when he called me, I knew. But there was a part of me. Let's talk about the feeling when you suspect and you know deep in your heart that it isn't right,
Something's
and that
not
they
right.
call you, you know. But there's a part of you that still denies, you know,
Yep.
that is what you're going to hear,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
And with me, it was a big part that even though my nursing knowledge dictated that I accept that this is most likely what it is. But my human and my emotional and my motherly instinct and feeling was that it can't be. I have 3 boys who
Yeah.
depending on me and so forth. And I so there was this fight, this struggle within you as to, you know, what are they going to tell you? And you suspect that they will tell you this, but you know, there's just this part of you that don't. Sometimes we women don't even want to hear it, so we delay going,
Of course.
which is a big no.
Big mistake.
Big mistake.
And I remember too, I kept like telling myself the statistics, being like,
Yes.
only 4 to 5% of women
Yes.
with breast cancer are under 40.
That's right.
There's no way I'm in
That's
that
right.
4 to
Yeah.
5%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah. So when I went into his office, I remember I had another registered nurse with me. We were working together, and I asked her. I said, "You want to come?" She said, "Okay," because nobody knew that I had biopsy.
Right.
I didn't tell anybody because I'm from a family, brothers and sisters, who would worry. I couldn't tell my children because how do you tell them and let them go through all of this and then it is nothing?
It's nothing, yeah.
So I decided to wait. So I did all of that, biopsy, everything without anybody knowing. Nobody knew. So when I went in, and from the time I saw his face, I knew. And as I said, he was a friend of mine. And he said to me, "I'm so sorry, but this is, you know," he said, "You were so right." He said, "I'm glad that you insisted now." Because remember, he was saying to me, it looked, you know, it could be hormonal, it could be,
it
right?
looks like nothing,
and it's no fault of his because generally it is those things. But there
Exactly.
is always the chance that it is something else. And we women ought to vigorously pursue until we get a result that says yay or nay.
Yeah.
You know? So when I got the results, I remember he looked at me and he said, "Well, you have cancer now. And we'll plan the next stage." And my friend who was next to me, the nurse, I said, "Okay, we'll see, we'll decide." And she looked at me and she said, "Denise, did you hear what he said?" I said, "Yes." She said, "So how are you taking it so calm?" I said, "Because it is not my cancer. It is not mine. And the God who has kept me all this time, the battle is his.
Yeah.
I will do what is required of me, physically and medically and so forth. But the rest stands or lies in the hand of God.
Yeah.
He who has kept me all this time, he who has said that he will be with me until I finish the race.
Yeah.
I had to now literally not just quote the scripture, but live it. Because it is either he's in control or he is not.
Yeah.
And those memory verses I remember kept me throughout, because on the background, I have, we are married, 3 boys, and but I did not have support. So to make a long story short, I had 6 weeks of radiation.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And for those 6 weeks, my husband never went, not even once. Not even once. I had my son Jason, who was 21 at the time.
Okay.
And I was feeling so guilty that he had to take me to do radiation every morning, and he will sit in the
And
waiting
wait.
room and watch me go, and then come back out and take me the next day. I had a brother who lived in Canada. When he came down, he would help, and I had a sister in Trinidad who would help from time to time.
Okay.
But so that's why I was excited to ask you, or I was asking Vaughn, I said she seemed to be well supported, So you had a level of support. You had parents and so on. I didn't have any of those.
Yeah.
Right? But the support I had was, of course, my belief in God and my children and my siblings.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how we are different colors, different race. We live in different countries. Same diagnosis.
Absolutely.
Same diagnosis. I was diagnosed grade 1, stage 1.
Okay.
And I was told at the time that it is so rare to be at grade 1, stage 1.
Yeah.
Most cancers are detected from grade 2 and up.
2 and up. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Because you said
So
it's
had
so
I waited,
small.
yes. So one of the things I was saying to Vaughn is that we need to encourage women to self-examine.
Yeah.
Right? And if you feel something that is not normal, now the thing about it is that if you are not examining yourself on a regular basis, you don't know the normal.
You don't know baseline. You don't know if things change.
So you wouldn't know exactly. So
Yeah.
I always tell my student nurses or my nurses at the nursing home, you need to learn the normal vital signs. You need to know what a normal temperature is. If you do not know what a normal temperature is, you cannot figure out when it is abnormal.
Exactly.
You see?
Right? Yeah.
So it is a request to young women to lie down, put your hands up, and actually examine
Feel
the
around,
breast all
yeah.
around, especially these areas. Because had I not done that, had I not been doing that, I may have gotten to a stage, and I was very busy.
Yeah.
Right? As a nurse, I'm working permanent nights at here, there, doing,
Yeah.
and you have 3. But at the end of the day, it is so important for women to understand, to take responsibilities for themselves, examine yourself. And once there is an abnormality, you feel something, do not wait and say it may be this, it may be that.
Yeah.
Let the doctors and let the research say.
Absolutely, because they
nothing.
will send you for a couple tests, and if
Yes.
it's nothing, they'll know right away.
Of course.
And they
Of
have
course.
no problem doing
Yes.
that. Yeah, I found that a lot of young people, they found like self-exams very uncomfortable.
Yes.
And I'm like, but why?
Yes.
This is your own body.
Yes.
And like the fact that you're uncomfortable to touch it at all, and especially something that's kind of medically related,
Yes.
is that this is like a medical thing that we are doing that
Of
is
course.
normal, and we should be doing once a month because that's how
Of
quickly
course.
it can grow.
Of course.
That's what they tell
Of
us.
course.
And so yeah, I found it very interesting that there was sort of like there's a little shame and like in the having to do a self-exam or the awkwardness of it.
Yes.
But I'm like, well, I've been in many a doctor's office without a shirt on, and that is far more awkward than doing a self-exam once monthly.
Exactly.
I'll tell you that.
And statistics is that breast cancer is very low occurring, but it can occur up to 1 to 2% in women under 20.
Yeah.
Right?
And under
so you
20.
could be in the one, just like I was in the unusual scope of being diagnosed at 45.
Yeah.
You were in the unusual scope
I was.
of being diagnosed under 40.
Yeah.
Then, it means that we have to, while under 20 or between 20 and 30, science doesn't say that you go and you do the mammogram and you do all of those things. Of course, if you have a very heavy or very high family history,
yes,
you need to let your doctors know, and you need to examine yourself even more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but people could be in the under 1%, right? And cancer, if it is caught early, we have to understand the big significant difference that it makes if it is caught early, as opposed to stage 4, stage 5, where there is spread already.
Incurable. It's in our other organs.
Yes. Yeah. So one of the things I tell even my nurses is that they need to examine themselves on a regular basis.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, you will have fibroids, not fibroids, sorry, you'll have fibrous tissue.
Yeah,
It could be hormonal, there could be many things, but if you are not sure, then you need to be brave
yeah,
and be bold
yeah.
and go and check it and
Yeah.
make sure that it isn't.
Well, and I think one of the other things that I did, I remember doing this in my 20s, and it was my doctor who asked, they said, would you like me to teach you how to do a self-exam?
Yes.
So if you don't know how to do it, you have a doctor's appointment, hey, can you teach me how to do a self-exam?
Yes.
It's 30 seconds. You'll learn how to do
Very
it
easy.
properly.
Mhm.
And the other thing is, with young people, we have much denser breast tissue, so it's
That's
actually
right.
harder to find cancer
Correct.
and tumors.
Correct.
So you should be doing it even earlier
Yes.
and be more aware of what it feels like versus
exactly.
what different feels
That's
like.
the major thing.
Yeah.
Understanding
What does change feel like?
Very good. Yes, recognizing the normal so that you can acknowledge the abnormal.
Yeah.
When there's an issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So at the time when I was diagnosed, my kids were 21, 18, and 15 at the time. But, and people may say, okay, well, they were grown, right? But it's the situation within which, as I said to you, I had my husband, their father, never went to, not even one. I was not taken, not even one. So you can imagine the type of support and the type of relationship that was developed with the sons towards the father, right? So the major thing for me wasn't, it's amazing how all the other things in life that we fuss about, the house, the car, the land, the job, the money in the bank, that just slides to the background.
Does not matter.
It does not matter. And then what comes to the forefront is the reality of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
That, hey, here I am at 45. I want to be able to, I would have wanted to see my sons, get married,
graduate,
grandchildren,
mm-hmm.
graduate, be standing on their feet
mm-hmm.
as men.
Yeah.
You
want to be there to watch them become adults and fathers. And
of course. And the only directive or the only person giving them direction at the time or advice was me. Yeah. I had to accept that. Yeah. I had to accept, listen. So I went before God and I said, God, look, this is the situation, right? I don't mind coming home. I don't mind when you're ready, you take me.
Yeah.
But I would like to have more time to do this and this and this, right? And I'm leaving everything in your hand. I'm taking it one step at a time. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how we always plan in the future. We're always busy. I will take a loan here and I'll buy. And at that point in time, everything stops.
Yeah. Your whole world stops.
Yes. And I can imagine with you as well.
Mm-hmm.
It would have just stopped. And the next thing now is, what do we do next? How do we stay alive? What do we put in place?
Yeah.
So it is an amazing journey, an amazing experience. Mm. And people wouldn't necessarily say that about being diagnosed cancer, but having come through that battle, how do you feel now? Are you stronger? I
am much stronger.
Yes.
I feel like I know myself better.
Mm-hmm.
I like myself more.
Yes.
I've definitely had to come to terms with a lot of life being out of my control and
mm-hmm.
not being
mm-hmm.
able to
yes.
feel good and do things. And that's
yes.
very hard when you're used to control
yes.
and it all being easy.
Yes.
So no, it is a thing that I always say. I don't wish that I went through cancer, but
mm-hmm.
I wouldn't change who I am after it.
Yes.
And I wouldn't change the lessons that I learned from
mm-hmm.
the experience. And even just like little things. I remember when I first lost my hair from chemo, I had a moment where I was like, this is going to help me learn empathy for people that leave the house and don't like the way that they look
yes.
and have no control over it.
Yes.
Because the reality is, I've been like this small little white girl
mm-hmm.
forever, and
yes.
I have never experienced the shame in like not liking something about you or being uncomfortable and having to live through it anyways. Like
Yes.
I've been very fortunate. I haven't experienced that. So sort of just, I am bald and there's nothing I can do about it. And I am going out there and this is who I am and I am
Yes.
going to learn to deal with that.
Yes.
It's definitely given me a lot more empathy for anyone's situation where just things are not in your control
That's right.
and how our bodies work. We
Yes.
don't get to pick.
Yes.
You know, what we can do everything in our power, but we don't get to pick how we react to things, how our systems function every time. So
Yes.
I definitely I don't take that for granted at all. And even just being able to do little things, like when I was doing chemo, I couldn't even walk a flight of stairs because it would wind me.
Yes.
And I would just, my head would be spinning, and now I can run. And I don't take that for granted, where before I'd been like, I don't want to do this flight of stairs.
Yes.
But now I can.
Yes.
And the fact that I can is amazing because I've been where I couldn't.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I like who I am. And I think in a really weird way, cancer made me a better person.
Yeah.
And like, it's very odd to say because
It
I
is.
don't want to wish that on anyone.
That's
I
right.
don't wish for the experience to go through to get to the other side.
Yes.
But it just really highlights the value in things in your life, and people can tell you what those values are.
Yes.
But until you're actually faced with them, and this might kill me.
Yes.
Not like, oh, this
There
is
she
going
said
to
it.
kill me as a
Yes,
joke.
she said it. Those are the words. Yes.
Right. Like,
yes.
I have to come to terms with that this might kill me.
Yes.
And what if this doesn't kill me, what would I wish I'd be doing right now? Right? And then you just use that in your life to go forward. And so, yeah, I think it made me a better person.
Yes, and that is why sometimes I say, we say we are survivors. Are you a cancer survivor? And people say yes. I say no. I say no.
What do you say?
I'm a conqueror.
Good for you.
So I'm not a survivor. I haven't survived. I've conquered.
Well, and
in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
and it makes you wiser. It makes you better. It makes you stronger in the sense that any experience, it's how you perceive it, and how much you learn and pull out from it. That gives you that strength and that motivation. That okay, if God can part the Red Sea, and if God could heal a blind man, and if he could raise Lazarus from the dead, and there's a song that says he's the same. There's a Bible verse that says he's the same. Yeah. So those are the verses I had to pull out. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And at one point in time, I actually did TAH. I did a total abdominal hysterectomy.
Okay.
Because in researching, you realize that within 10, 15 years, you can have a reoccurrence. And that's the reality of what we have.
100%.
Right? Yes, I'm believing God that it is not going to happen. But at the same time, we look at life differently after going through that. It's not a happy time at all.
No.
It's not something that we wanted to hear. It's not something that we wanted to go through. But unfortunately, because this is flesh, both of us and many, many other women around the world do go through it.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of sharing our experiences. And our experiences may not be theirs. It may not be somebody else, but something we say, something we do, if it can affect one woman, one person, and make her stronger, make her smile at the storm, make her, then it is worth it.
It's worth it. Absolutely.
Worth it. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I wanted to ask you, I know that you said that you don't have any kids.
I don't have any kids.
And I know with a diagnosis of breast cancer, you would be on medication. So was I for at least 5 years after.
Yep.
Are there any fears concerning childbearing? Do you want kids? Are there? Because that's the reality.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
We don't want to stay stuck with the cancer. We've done that.
Well, and I think that's something that I thought about when you said survivorship or being a survivor.
Yes.
It also puts it like that step is over.
That's
like,
right.
yes, that chapter might be over, but like, having lived through cancer is going to affect the rest of my life
Mhm.
in different little ways.
That's
And it
right.
might not affect everyday life. But like you said, it could affect these little decisions 10 years down the road that I decided not to freeze any eggs. Okay, so yes, I have no children. I always thought I would have children. It was my goal in life to be a mom. When I was a child, apparently, I used to tell my parents I was going to have 100 kids. And they would always laugh at me, knowing logistically how cute that was.
Yes.
And in previous relationships, I was always like, if we're going to have kids, I'm happy to put my career aside, be the stay-at-home mom if I need
Yes.
to. And so I never expected this. But before my husband and I got married, we had a discussion about fertility. And we had a lot of friends who went through fertility, froze eggs, did the IVF, did all of the hormone therapies. And it is a very emotional, physically hard process. And so we had discussions before we got married and said, where do you sit on fertility? And, you know, we got married when I was 34. So I'm like, I'm not getting younger. Next year I'm geriatric pregnancy starting, right?
Correct.
So I kind of had thought, like, I've never been pregnant, so I don't even know what my odds are. And we had both been in previous relationships and had a lot of previous situations where like, we don't need to add more emotional stress. This was before cancer.
Yes.
We don't want to put ourselves in more emotional stress. If there are other ways to start a family. And I've always felt that I didn't need biological children for me to have a family.
Okay.
So when I was diagnosed with cancer, they said, you have one shot to freeze eggs if you want to. We're going to give you 3 weeks before you can start chemo. And if it doesn't work, like, you got to start. So I thought about it, and I met with the fertility department. They went in, they did ultrasounds, they kind of checked how my body was, and they're like, okay, if you want to do this, we can do this. And so I was still in the office, and I called my husband, and I just said, like, Matt, are we 100% sure no invasive fertility? And he was like, I'm sure if you're sure. And I was like, okay. And so I went back into the office, and I was like, I'm going to start chemo. Like, I'm done here.
Yes.
And they were like, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I do. So never did I expect to not have my own biological children. And we found out I had cancer 1 month after our wedding. So we were thrown very quickly into like, are you sure this is our decision? And I also think having cancer and not having children makes different decisions for the future. Like, I have a gene mutation, so the more rounds of radiation that I have or had, I'm more likely for other cancers to come back.
Correct.
Right. So that leaves me the decision, okay, so now I have had radiation, and the odds are I also have a lower life expectancy just because I had gone through all of this. And I'm already almost geriatric. I have also 5+ years of estrogen blocking and hormone suppressing. So if we're going to do this, I'm realistically not carrying this child. It's going to make treatment longer or delayed, and we have no idea if it's going to work. So what happens if we set our heart on this, go through all of this treatment, and then it also doesn't work? And now we're disappointed in ourselves. I don't know. I was like, I can't have that. And I also found that I started my friends who had the kids and had the sweet little babies. They were also starting to get into the reality of what everyday parenthood actually is. And so they're telling me, you know, I'm going back to work and I am trying to balance my kids and having a successful relationship and doing this and doing this. And I was just like, okay, that's like, kids just add something different to your life where now everything is about them. It changes everything. And so, yeah, it does. And it's not a bad thing. And change is not a bad thing. It does. It changes how your life structures. And so then, you know, after having cancer and having a lot of things out of my control, having the ability to do what we wanted, when we wanted, a little bit of freedom with time, we were kind of like, you know, okay, this not having children stage is nice. And then, everybody that I've talked to is just kind of like, oh, the 2-year-old is hard. And then the next person's like, wait till you get to 3. And then they're like, oh gosh, wait till they're 6. And you're like, oh, it's all hard, right? So, I definitely, and I still have my moments, and I've said this, that I'm like, on Christmas morning, it breaks my heart a little that like my children aren't there opening their presents the way that I visualized my life would be.
Yes.
And there's grief in my life not being what I thought it was. All of that being said, now my husband and I are very much of the opinion that we love not having kids. So we like the freedom of life. I also have my own business. So I have something that takes all of my time and money. So that's convenient, right? Like I got some things already taken out of life. I never thought I would feel this way. And I spend a lot of time and attention. We have 2 nieces and a nephew. And so we spend a lot of time and attention like with them and with my friends' children. I'm a lot closer, and I will take them for sleepovers, which I would never do probably with my own kids because I don't have the same energy and, you know. And so, yes, we are now sitting at the opinion that children are not for us. We're enjoying time without it. Adoption and fostering are always on the table. It's actually an ongoing discussion in our house, and my husband Matt is very much like, yeah, I'm glad we don't have kids. Like that's how he feels right now. And then, every once in a while he'll be like, so if we were going to adopt though, that's still an option, right? And I'm like, yeah, man, it's still on the table. Absolutely. And I think too, there's going to be, if we are meant to have someone come into our life, they are just going to come into our life. There's going to be a situation where someone needs a really good home and we can provide that, or we are going to feel this call so deeply that we're missing being parents that it will be undeniable that I can't ignore it. But yeah, right now I'm very much content with not having children, and yeah, I because I'm estrogen positive, I'm in full menopause. So I understand getting the hysterectomy. Like that's actually a discussion that they're referring me to see if maybe that's an option for me if I want to. What are the side effects of taking all of those out in your 30s in your long term, right? So I'm right in that stage as well, where I never thought I would be infertile, and I don't think of myself that way, but like on paper, like because I'm not trying to have kids, I don't feel like, oh, infertility is a problem for me. But like on paper, that's what cancer caused, and it was our mind shift more than anything that changed to adjust to our situation.
And it's a big step too, doing the total abdominal hysterectomy. I did quite a lot of research, and the thing is, I chose not to do chemotherapy. Because I was 45, I was given the option, you cannot do you can do chemotherapy, or you can, because you're not doing chemotherapy, and those are some of the options you know, women need to ask, ask, what are my options? What else can I do? And I didn't want to do chemo. I didn't feel that I wanted to at all.
And you had it had not spread anywhere. You had one single isolated.
That's right. And they removed the 10 lymph nodes, and
you had all 10 taken out. As a precaution too.
As a precaution.
They
because they wanted to test 10. Because they said it could have spread because of where it was. And they were thinking that the breast could have been a secondary placement. And the first may have been within the lymph nodes and so on, but that was negative.
They were all clear.
So then I opted not to remove the breast, not to do mastectomy. I opted to do wider margin, so a piece is gone. Right. And because of those things, when I did my own research, I recognized that if you're not going to do those, then the better thing, the other option would be to remove the womb, remove the ovaries, because those are the organs. There are other organs that produce estrogen and progesterone. Because I was ER/PR positive, estrogen and progesterone positive, and therefore the medication that we take for the 5 years is to depress that hormonal the level of the hormones, estrogen and progesterone.
Yes.
But so I realized that, okay, if I remove that, there's less production of estrogen, right? If you remove the
Right.
ovaries and so on.
Yes.
And therefore I didn't necessarily, because I chose not to do chemo, that would have been the other safe thing to do.
Right.
And even in doing that, the decision was difficult because the doctors warn you, and when you do research, you realize you will age faster, you're going direct menopause. And I'm telling you, I'm 62 years old. We're talking about 45. 45 and 15 is 60 and 2. And I still, up to now, have hot flushes. Like just before you came in, I sat here and I was saying, oh boy, the place, right? And then all of a sudden I started feeling cold. So I still do have hot flushes.
The side effects.
I was told that you will age faster. You know, no woman wants to know that.
No.
And early lines and wrinkles. But I'm happy to report, if you look at me,
You're
at
looking
62,
great. Yeah.
You know,
You look
and I
great.
don't, all I do is take care of myself. I eat well. Pray and leave the things that has to be in God's hand, leave that there. I'm not worrying about those things.
Yeah.
Because God is in control or he's not, you
Yeah.
know. And with that in mind, peace of mind and so on. So I made that decision, and it was a difficult decision because it's like a piece of it's like what makes you a woman is gone. And I think that's a battle for a lot of women. I mean, we do it because we say, okay, we want to live. So but you know, for men who may think it's as easy as, well, okay, because my children told me, Mommy, it's in your breast, right? Mr. Vaughan, at 18. When they found it, I can never forget, they started to cry. I said, why are you all crying? I'm not dead yet. Why are you all crying like that?
Yet.
No, you know, when the Lord ready to take me, you take me. And then I remember Vaughan in particular blurting out, so Mommy, you can't take it out. Just take it out. Take it out. And I recognize that it is, while it's very emotional, I don't think men or people recognize how difficult a decision it is to take away, or to make a decision that to take away the parts that make you female. No, I had children already. So when I went to my gynecologist and I said, listen, this is what I'm thinking of, he said, yep, easy like that. Yep,
Right.
yep. I said, but you know, the aging process and all of that. And then he said to me, he said, listen, you tied your tubes years ago, it's only cobweb growing in there now. He said, what, you intend to have more children?
Right. Like,
But I'm looking at how easy it is. And people on the outside, they hear that women with cancer go through these things. And all people thinking is, well, okay, it will save your life. But there's another aspect to removing those parts. When you remove your breast, when you have to remove your ovaries, when you have to remove your womb and your tubes, it's an emotional, deep emotional decision that can affect how we live the rest of our lives.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'm just throwing it out there that yes, it's something that we need to do, but to the men in our lives, including sons, it's not as easy as take it off and throw it away.
Yeah.
You wouldn't miss it. At least you get rid of the cancer. That's what Vaughan told me.
Yeah.
At least you get rid of the cancer, Mommy. Just take it out. Just take it out, you know, because in their mind, you take it out and you get rid of it, and you live long and we'll have you longer.
And you're good. Yeah. Yeah.
But for a woman to remove the breast, much less bilateral, remove ovaries, it's something that we have to do. But I think people don't recognize the effect, the awesome effect it can have on us,
yeah.
and what is required to balance that off, right? So people balance it when life, well, I'm alive and I've gotten rid of it, right? But on the down days, there are times when I still look at my breast and I say, boy, you know, I'm divorced now,
Okay.
right? And you're looking, you know, there's a scar, right?
Yeah.
There's a scar to the battle that you've been through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are soldiers,
Yeah.
and there's a scar. You will have scars,
I got lots.
right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
scars remind you of the battle
Mm-hmm.
and remind you of the success or the fact that you've conquered. Yeah, and all these things, we are more than conquerors. That's what the Bible says to us,
Mm-hmm.
right? But there's the emotional part that goes um, on the not discussed,
Mm-hmm.
because we look at the greater this, but and that's why I asked about the children. I
Mhm.
really wanted to know, because I know it had to have been, and it still has to be, a very emotional time. um and it's not that you're not battling it. It's not that you haven't conquered. It's not that you haven't come to reality, like this is life.
Mm-hmm.
It that All those decisions does not take away that deep sense or that feeling, that emotional thing, right?
Yeah.
And I saw the tears in your eyes,
Yes.
and you made me have some,
Yeah.
because it's a deep thing that society does not teach us to open and explore about. You know, I had cancer and I was healed or whatever it is, yes, but
Mm-hmm.
what is behind that?
Well, yeah.
You know, what is behind that? How did you? That's I was asking Vaughn. Did you ask her this, or did you ask her that? Because I know what I've been through,
Right.
and I know up to now there's a scar. There are scars
Right.
up to now.
Yeah.
You know, some women may go through it and feel less of a woman. Some women go through it and they have the support of a husband, but what about those who don't have the support of the husband? What about those who don't have partners and they're pretty young?
Yeah.
What about those who were abandoned by the partner when the diagnosis
Yeah.
was done? What about those who had to be scarred to do so many different things, and when they look at their body, they don't see them anymore?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's
And
hard.
It
is.
It's
And I
really
remember
hard.
going through chemo, I had a lot of moments where I felt like a stranger in my own body.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't feel good, and then I would look in the mirror and there would just be bandages and scars from things, and I'm like, this
It's
isn't
as if
what I
you've
look
lost
like.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yes.
this isn't,
Yes.
and I'm
Yes.
bald,
Yes.
and I think one of the other things too with your breasts is to just have people in front of you with clothes on.
Yes.
Like the breasts are really what you look at to determine male and female.
Yes.
Right? It
Yes.
just is. If we have pants on and you can have long hair and short
Yeah.
hair, but to just objectively look,
Yes.
that is what identifies you as a female.
Yes.
And with the hysterectomy, again, that is what this is our nature and who we are and who we were made to be
Yes.
is to reproduce
Yes.
people
Yes.
and create life. That is what the organ does.
Mhm.
And so it's also I cannot do what my body is supposed to be function to do anymore.
Yes.
And it's a very unconscious thought. It's not that I'm
Yes.
like, man, I wish I was pregnant.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just these moments where like, oh, I can't, like if you define a woman, here's the list. I
Mhm.
don't have that and I can't do this and right?
Mhm.
So and I was very fortunate. I had a husband who told me constantly
Thank God.
how beautiful I was.
Mhm.
And but yeah, it's very hard when also then you feel insecure.
Yes.
And you want to hide if you don't feel comfortable.
Yes.
And you're already in this isolated situation where you're a young person who has lived with cancer. So you're
Yes.
already hiding and so yeah, it's there's a lot of emotion
Yes.
with the physical changes.
Correct.
And you're having to make these decisions about, well, what do you want to do for the rest of your life while you're in this situation? We're trying to make choices to save your life. Like if you have this, like I had a full bilateral mastectomy because my genetic testing said I had over a 40% chance that I would get
Your markers.
secondary.
Correct. Okay.
So I'm out. I don't want to
course.
do this again.
Mhm.
I took both. And to be honest, and then I had implants. And part of that was that, like, I now have a plastic surgeon who can guarantee me some kind of an outcome of what I'm going to look like.
Yes.
That was a huge factor in deciding to get implants or not.
Yes.
Because he can be like, you could wear any clothes you want, you will look the same.
Mhm.
No one will know. And you'll have scars in, like, at home with your partner.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
that I can handle. That's easier than having to explain why I'm flat or, and not that
Yes.
there's anything wrong, but I just don't know that in that moment, while I'm trying to figure out, like, can I survive? Are we going to be able to have kids? Like,
Yes.
can we do this? Will we afford this? How much does this cost? And that you're then trying to make those decisions of like, will I feel pretty if I make this decision?
Yes.
Because in 3 years, you're going to care about if you feel pretty. But in the moment of survival, that's the last thing on your
That's
mind.
right.
And that is one of the things is that, like, yeah, once the surgery's over and your scar's healed, now you have the rest of your life. You have to live with those results. And everything, and I don't know how many people realize this, but as part of your cancer treatment, everything is your choice.
That's right.
Right? So
That's
you
right.
can do chemo, but you can choose not to because you don't need to. And when they do the genetic testing and they find out, like, there's no reason for you to worry about it to come back, don't do the chemo.
That's
right?
right,
Like your
yes.
body doesn't need it. You're quick enough to fight it on your own
Yeah.
with the radiation. And so, yeah, it's very interesting, the changes to the body and that it's not talked about, and the things like that you can't see, like the fertility
Yes.
or, adjusting. I can't feel my chest. I have no feeling. Everything was taken, like all the nerves were taken away. So even at the beginning of having these implants, I would like open the fridge door and like knock into myself and be like, oh,
Yes.
right. And just even like my own
Yes.
spatial awareness. I'm like, I feel like
Yes.
an alien.
Yes.
I can't even feel my body. That's crazy.
Yes.
Right? So yeah,
Yes.
it takes a lot of adjustment and a lot of emotional adjustment and a lot of, for me, a lot of therapy. I have a very good therapist who helps
Yes.
me work through a lot of things. And that was definitely one of them is, what does life look like after cancer? And if I'm making these snap decisions in 6 months of my life that affect everything else,
That's right.
can I handle this? If I choose never to have my own children, like, am I emotionally prepared for the day when it breaks me that I don't have my own children?
Yes.
Right? Because it's going to hit and it's going to come. And I'm going to be at like my niece's birthday. I'm like, I'll never have one of these for my own kid.
Yes.
That's going to hurt.
Yes.
And I got to be ready for it. And that's one of the other things you get ready for is like, I'm ready to be hurt again
Yes.
by side effects of cancer, which is also a crazy thing to think about. But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so now I'm interested in
Yes.
you living through cancer treatment and doing cancer treatment with kids. And your kids were older, so there
Yes.
wasn't like
Babies.
babies and all of that. But I know Vaughn and I have talked about him feeling like he had to step up and become the man, right? And so I know for me, telling my parents that I had cancer and telling my family was harder than dealing with it myself.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't want to hurt the people I loved.
Yeah.
And like me having cancer would hurt them.
Yes.
I can handle cancer, sure. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But for them, and so to have that be your children,
Yes. Yeah.
what was that
That
like?
was I think that was the most it was both the worst part for me because as I said they were crying as if I was gone already, you know.
Yeah.
And but I think your with me, my belief in the God that I've been serving since I was 11, my trust in him, the verses, in Psalms it says, David says, thy word have I hid in my heart that I wouldn't sin against thee. So when all through, I used to learn Bible verses that mean a lot to me. Like, be still and know I am God, right? Where would you hide from my presence? If you go to the depth of the sea, I am there with you. So things like those kept me because I recognize I was able to pull up on those.
Yeah.
And when the enemy comes to me and says, you will surely die, you would not see your children grow, you would not see your grandchildren, I was able to say, hey, Satan, get behind me.
Right.
The word of God says, I will live and not die.
Yeah.
I'm at the head and not. So those are the things that kept me. I'm the head and not the tail.
Yeah.
I am because God says I am. And God will determine when my life is taken, not you. And those are the things that help me. But with the children, with them, now, though they were big, they were grown. People will say, well, they're grown 21, 18, and 15. But the relationship I have with them, I think they were more children than anything else.
Yeah.
Because you were always covering them. Because they didn't have the support and the quote-unquote love of a father. It was me alone. as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
And they did not have and still do not have a relationship with their father that they could talk and,
Right.
you know, and I pleaded with God. I asked God to extend my life so that I can see them become men of honor, men of integrity, men who love God, men who will serve God, men who will be fathers that their father isn't. So I was determined to teach them how to be a father, even
And
though,
you did a very good job.
thank you, by the grace of God, even though I didn't see fatherhood.
Right.
But there was so many things people would think that, okay, well, they're big enough, so if anything happened, but the reality is there's so much you want to do, right? So when I was diagnosed and I told them, as I said, Vaughn wanted the breast gone. Mommy, if you take it out, if they take it out, then it's gone.
We're good,
right? And so the hard part was they from the time they heard cancer, that was it. I was gone already or soon going to go. That was a death set. And I had to teach them, no, right? This is another thing for us to conquer. This is another thing for me to overcome.
Right.
Right? We are going to fight. Right? Do not give up. Do not say in your mind, it is the end. I'm losing my mother.
No.
Right? And there's power in your words. The Bible says when you pray, say. So there's power in what you say.
Yeah.
So it was very difficult, especially with Jason taking me to radiation. Right? I would look at him and I would feel so sad because he had to go through this at 21, something that men go through.
Yeah.
You know? And I was worried about how will it scar him?
Right.
Because he had to drive me. Sometimes I go after radiation and it burns and I can't even raise my hand. And he would have to come in and help wash me. I'm talking about this 21-year-old boy, right? And so in those ways, it catapulted me into recognizing that, look, you have the support. They feel this way, so you have to be positive for them. Even though sometimes you didn't feel, sometimes when you come back and the breast is just painful, and I stand under the shower and I'm just, God, will I get through this thing? And then I think of them. And then I realize, oh, yes, I will get through. I would overcome. Because you realize that there's still purpose, But many people don't see or talk or understand those aspects, right? How do you going through it yourself, but you have to be strong for those around you. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
I do understand that.
You have to be strong. You have to put up a face. You have to it's as if you supporting them.
Yeah, if you show emotion, you're afraid it'll be harder on them.
It'll be harder for them.
Now they need to step up and fix you.
Yeah, yes.
Crying or whatever.
And you just don't want to be the furthest thing from your mind. Is you don't want to be a burden, and you don't want to upset them. So when these guys come from school or whatever, I was always positive, although I had a drain here because when they removed the lymph node, I had to have drains and so on. And then I went to do surgery and I had this issue, right? So it was very difficult, and I could only imagine how difficult it is for women who have younger children.
And it's interesting though, because to have the small kids is a lot more physical.
Correct.
But they don't remember what would happen necessarily.
Yeah, they may not remember what would happen, but they will know you're gone.
They would know you're gone, absolutely.
And your thought is that, how can I go and leave them? What am I leaving them with?
Yeah.
What? So there's so much, because mine were big. And my thoughts were that.
But that is also hard because having big kids, they know what's going on.
That's right.
Right? That's, if you tell a 4-year-old cancer,
they don't know.
They're not going to freak out in the same way that
True.
your boys buried you the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
time, right?
yeah,
So
yeah. I was gone and buried
yeah,
and
yeah.
ceremony, everything
Yeah,
gone.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is well, and because for me, I had these moments where I was like, I don't have to stay alive for anyone. And that's how I felt about
And
not having kids through treatment.
right.
Is I was like, man, if you have kids, like there is this undeniable drive that like
Mhm.
I have to stay alive to take care of them.
Yes.
And there was part of me that was just like, I'm glad that I don't feel
Mm.
feel that feeling on top
Mhm.
of everything else,
Yes,
sort of.
yes. Because that's another layer of the pain that you're going through. That's another layer.
That's a whole
You
other
know?
layer.
So you have the changes in your body, right? You have what the doctors are telling you. And then you have to choose, like most of what I was told, I didn't tell them.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the effect of when you tell them bounces back on you. And there's another layer again that you have to
And
deal
is it
with.
helpful?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know? So, but we want to admonish supporters of women who have survived breast cancer, who are going through it now, to understand that it is not just the physical thing, it's not just the medical thing. It's a big, big mental issue. It's an emotional roller coaster that we may not say it is happening at the time because we feel that we have to be strong for everybody, but understand that your support is not just in a physical way.
No.
You know,
I
go ahead.
have said many times that the year after cancer was harder than treatment. For different reasons, but during treatment, I had a doctor who said, this will happen, this will happen, this will happen, then we do this. And then once you are out of treatment, they're like, okay, well,
Bye-bye.
great luck.
Yeah.
And here's a list of things that might happen to you.
Yes.
And there's no roadmap of it. Everybody
There's
has
no manual.
exactly, and it's a very
Yes.
different experience. And I
Yes.
think to the emotional of like, it was like after cancer treatment, I woke up and I was like, what just happened? Right? It was almost like I was in a fog to
Yes.
get myself through and just, I will deal with this later. I will deal with this later. And then I was like, what?
Yes.
What did happen? I
Yes.
did almost die. And like, I am a very different person. And that took me by surprise because it's the after that was really painfully emotional.
Yeah. Yeah. And then years after, you still have the effects of it.
Sure
You
do.
know, I remember going back to work where I still do have my own business in Trinidad, and I remember part of my job was being on the road. I did health education in schools and so on.
Okay.
And I remember I would have to have my niece with me, and she would tell you stories of how many times I'm driving, and I would have to pull on the side of the road and sleep for 15, 20 minutes, and she'll be there for safety so that nobody would. And it's like, because of the medication I was on post cancer treatment, that had me so drowsy at times that I had to pull aside and sleep, but I had to work and make money to be able to take care of my children and my family and to pay bills and whatever, you know. And you know, those effects you don't count on. Nobody said, they said, yes, you will have drowsiness, but nobody said that it will so interrupt your
And
daily.
I was going to say, and there's drowsiness and there's like not being able to function.
That's right.
Because
yes.
you have to sleep. And that I have experienced
You
it.
have to
You
sleep.
have to.
You're in the middle of something important. I mean, I'm driving down the highway and all of a sudden and I just cannot hold up. I just cannot hold up and I have to pull aside. And after it happened to me a few times, I fell asleep and then when I got up was an hour later. Anything could have happened to me.
Yeah.
I started having my niece with me, who is still with me today.
Amazing.
Working with me.
Yeah.
But she's the HR manager now. But she would give you stories of how many times. And she said to me after it stopped, she said, Denise, you know, many times I'm frightened. I'm just looking around all over because you dead asleep.
You're
She said,
asleep.
you're not hearing anything, right? And we're talking about a work day here. And then what about the nights when you can't sleep? 2 days, 3 days, and you say, okay, I'll sleep today. And tomorrow, please, okay, I'll sleep tomorrow. And you start to feel worse. And the next day, you will feel, I will sleep probably. And then after a while, God, give me sleep.
Mm-hmm.
and you feel like you're in a different universe, but you still have to prepare food. You still have to have a face for the
You still have to
children,
do
have
your
a face for
life,
work. Yeah,
everything that you would
yeah.
do anyways. Yeah.
It's an amazing time, right? And I just wanted to get behind some of the, because I know what I experienced.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever said to Vaughn and they about pulling aside and sleeping for hours on the road, right?
Yeah.
I never went out at night for the same reason, right? Because I couldn't get, and to today, it's very difficult to get me to go out at night
Yeah.
because of the 5-year period where I did not go. Because the sleep was so intense and so sudden. Whap, you want to
Yeah.
sleep. You're driving, and all of a sudden you wake up
You're
and
not gonna make it
and
home
it's by
safe.
the grace of God that you wake up and
Yeah.
realize, oh God, I just can't function with my eyes closing down, and you're asking, wait, stay awake, and you just cannot stay awake.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to, so after it happened to me a few times at night,
Mm-hmm.
I stopped going out at night.
Yeah.
Now I could go now,
Right.
how much years after?
Yeah.
But the habit of not going out is so much that sometimes, even Jason visited me in Trinidad, and even when Vaughn came, right? I can ask Vaughn how many times I went out with you guys in the night. He had to say, "Mommy, come now, let us go."
Yeah.
But they don't understand it. I've never explained to them. I think it's the first time he's hearing that,
Mm-hmm.
because I had to guard myself, because I survived cancer, conquer cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and I died in an accident because I dropped to sleep.
Right.
Like, so
such a waste of the survivorship. I know.
all at
I
your
know.
wedding,
Yeah.
So at
Yes.
the end of the day, the long-term effect, and we want women to know that yes, those are the long-term effect, but doing your research, understanding, look, this is going to happen. It may not happen to everybody.
Yeah.
There are many women who I know who have not gone through that at all,
Yeah.
and they did everything and they came out,
Yep.
But there are some of us who would have those effects, and so that the men in our lives and the supporters in our lives have to understand that not just because we are cancer free, it means that it's finished.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole emotional roller coaster taking place behind in our mind, in our
Yes.
heart. There's a whole, sometimes some time ago, about 5 years ago, I started to have severe headaches. And the first thing came to my mind is, after, getting headaches. So the first thing came to my mind was, oh my, I wonder if there's metastases.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it's back.
And that is something we will live with for the
We
rest
live
of
with
our
it,
lives.
and people wouldn't understand that. But
No.
I want people to know, and women who are going through it, I want them to know, yes, that's normal for us,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have a cold, and if cold staying long, and you're coughing, right?
Yeah.
Last year, year before, I lost my sister, another sister, to lung cancer. She was breast,
Yeah.
and got over, and then developed this
Spread
lump.
to lung.
Like me, she didn't say anything.
Yeah.
I was called from England by her to say, look, I'm going through this and I don't know if I'll make it. So I dropped everything, flew up to England,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I had her for just a week.
Oh.
Right. And then she was gone. She died in my hand. But the thing about it is the effect that has on you, because I am also surviving breast cancer.
Yeah.
So if I breathe and I feel a pain while I'm breathing, I could have sworn for months after that I too have lung cancer.
100%.
Because I am feeling things all over. I breathe and there's a pain here, and I think I'm feeling a lump here, and you know what I mean?
And for anybody else, you'd be like, that's crazy.
Yes.
You're not sick.
Yes.
But if you've had cancer, it's a whole other situation.
That's it. Yes. So it's not the reality that you're in remission. That is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not finished. In the life of the woman, it goes on.
Mm-hmm.
You have an issue, and you realize the first thing that comes to your mind is, boy, and especially when my sister died so quickly, right, with lung cancer.
Mm-hmm.
She just was exercising, felt a lump. She thought, well, it was because she went back to exercise because she had finished radiation and so on.
Okay.
And she decided, and she was just 2 years older than me. Just 2 years. So, now you're thinking, your mind goes off, and that's the reality, right? Your mind goes off on, it could happen to you, right? She was diagnosed after me and passed before me,
Before.
right? And you're feeling all sorts of things. So now you as I said, you feel, I start re-examining again fully. I don't know, I'm feeling something. I wonder if it's that. I wonder if it,
Was that there before?
Yeah, was it there
Yeah.
before? Was it there before? And so the thing is, people have to understand that supporters of women who have survived and conquered cancer is that there is still issues behind that. And while she lives her daily life, going around, going about her business, right? I have 3 nursing homes in Trinidad. I started with 1. I have 3.
Yeah.
I am training geriatric nurses to care for the elderly. I am doing all those things. I'm still a mother. I'm still a grandmother. I come up here to see my grandchildren.
Yeah.
That's why won't catch me now. But never underestimate the psychological and emotional impact that affects we women after going through those traumas. It is not finished because it's 17 years.
No.
It's finished in the sense that the cancer is over.
Yes.
But the what ifs, what can I do? How can I stop it? How can I, right? You fully understand what I'm saying.
I do. Yeah? And the reality too of
it's out of your hands. It's like if it's just out of your hands.
It is.
It's out of your control.
Yeah. And the reality too of like me being young and having cancer means odds are I'm going to have other people that come to me with this being their story, and that I will then relive this over and over, which isn't a bad thing, but it can be a very emotional thing because it hurts just as much sometimes.
Everything we hash everything, As I said, my sister died in my hands, and that look of when I got there, I will never forget when I got there. I dropped everything and I went. And when I got there, she looked at me and she started to cry and she said, girl, I'm sorry I didn't tell you anything. I just didn't know that this is what it was. And I didn't expect to be in this condition so quickly. She had booked her flight to come to Trinidad in December. We're talking about June here, June, July, right? And it makes you think. I look at her and I begin to wonder, is this going to be me soon? Is it going to be? No, those are not things that you tell people. You don't tell your family that. Now, in their minds too, they're thinking, because after that death, I had Jason calling me nearly every day, Mommy, you all right? Phone will call you, okay? You're all right, you don't have any pain, no way. Because I know in their mind too, nobody's saying it, nobody addressing the elephant in the room.
No.
Right? So your aunt just passed from cancer. Mommy had breast cancer. She had breast cancer. She passed from lung cancer. You all right, Mommy? Everything okay?
Because the reality is they can actually see you in that position.
That's right.
And it's not some far-fetched make-believe.
And the reality is you see yourself too.
Yes. That you're like,
is that,
I am lucky today. Yeah. I am fortunate today. I'm blessed today.
Yes.
I don't know what tomorrow could bring.
That's right.
And that is hard.
That is it. So at the end of the day, then it for me, it is the reason why my belief in God is so therapeutic.
Yeah.
It is the answer. Right? Yeah. Because my Bible tells me, my God shall supply all my needs according to his riches and glory. He says to me, I am the head and not the tail. I'm above and not beneath. He says that he's the great physician and he's able to heal. Is there nothing is impossible for me? Is there anything too hard for me to do, Denise? Is there anything too hard for me to do? Yeah. I walked on the water. I raised Lazarus from the dead,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've been healing. I'm in the healing industry. I've been healing people across the world.
Mm.
Can
And
I
I'm
not
assuming you
heal
know the
you?
story of the 2 footprints on the beach.
Yes,
That's
yes,
how many times
yes.
has there been one footprint in your life?
And
Because
that's him carrying you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So things like those are the things that that come back to visit you at those times when the thoughts become negative and you begin to wonder and you know, but people only see the strength. People on the outside, boy, she's strong, boy. She had this. Wow, she's strong. She went through all of that and by herself and that. But but you know, I just wanted to chat with you. You're the first person with who diagnosed with breast cancer who have actually spoken to
Really?
in this light. We
Yeah.
will talk about. I have a sister-in-law who just retired. She's a
Okay.
nurse as well,
Okay.
right? A nurse extraordinaire as well.
Okay.
And upon retirement, a little while after, noticed her hand was looking pale. Decided to go. Thank God for knowledge. That's why I'm saying I'm admonishing women, men too. Something not right. Something not right. Go and check it.
Go.
So she went to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And the long and short is she was diagnosed with colon cancer. A big mass was there, a big mass. She had to do emergency surgery. She had to do chemo. She had to do radiation, right? After that, her life is not her own. It's different, right?
Yeah.
And she will need the kind of support that we were talking about just now.
Yeah.
So, you know, it happens.